We renovated a house with Stainmaster carpet and polyurethane on the floors, and we super insulated it, and it was my first winter home with the baby, and I spent the winter lying on the floor on the carpet with the formaldehyde playing with the baby, and I went down real fast and never came up.
I was a nurse and I was working in a hospital. They did a remodeling project, and at that time all of our patients were getting sick, and I ended up having a heart attack at age 28.
All the solvents, we used them like it was water, you know. I was getting nauseated, I was dizzy, I was very fatigued, and my eyes, the vision was so blurred. A member of the safety committee said that the solvents, there was no way in the world they could make anyone sick, that they were very safe to use, you know. And one of them said, besides, it looks like you just have like a common cold, you know. And I told him, well, this cold has been with me since '72, you know, I can't shake it.
My brain scan showed severe neurotoxicity. Everyday items that had not been a problem for me now were very overwhelming for me and just made me so sick.
Basically couldn't be around any kind of chemical at all, and I've done all kinds of traveling and searching to try to find a better environment for myself, because it seems like so much of my ability to function is related to whether or not I have a good environment.
Were you able to find housing here? I mean, after you... No. Well, tell us what's
housing is the crisis of our lives.
That's me, right before I got sick in 1986, when I was singing in Boston area clubs. I was soon to experience disabling fatigue and intense flu-like symptoms. Everything around me seemed to be making me sick. My whole life as I knew it completely changed. I love to sing anywhere, anytime. I love to sing anything with any rhyme. I love it soft and dreamy. It's been 20 years since I got sick. It totally changed my life. It controls where I live, what I wear, what I eat, where I go, who I sit next to, who I can hug. For more than 10 years before I got sick, I was singing at night and doing administrative work during the day. It's taken a long time to accept that I can't work, and I had to let go of my dream of becoming a full-time musician. I always wanted my life to be exceptional, extraordinary, but I never imagined it would be like this. What's happening here on Earth? It seems that our bodies can no longer handle living in such an industrialized world. More and more, people like me are developing an illness called Multiple Chemical Sensitivities, or MCS. What is MCS? It's a chronic condition marked by heightened sensitivity to many common chemicals, like those found in perfumes, pesticides, car exhaust, tobacco smoke, building materials, and household cleaners. People with MCS can have headaches, nausea, heart palpitations, difficulty breathing, abdominal pain, fatigue, body aches, rashes, seizures, and difficulty concentrating. We call that brain fog.
The term chemical sensitivities goes back to 1916. British military physicians first noted that the troops that were exposed to mustard gas, phosgene gas, and chlorine were developing chemical sensitivities. So you had a huge amount of servicemen coming out of World War I with multiple chemical sensitivities. So this really started to shape not only medical science, but it also started to shape the nation. In World War II, the Germans developed a gas called sarin, which is an organophosphate. It's the same chemical that we now would term as a pesticide. After the war, many of the German scientists who had developed sarin were turned around and they were hired by W.R. Grace and Dow Chemical to work in pesticide development. So sarin is really the mother of modern pesticides.
I wanted to meet others who were going through this nightmare too. It seemed like there were many people with MCS who migrated to the Southwest in search of less industrialized areas and cleaner, drier air. So I applied for a grant to fund a trip in hopes of getting some answers, and maybe, in the process, find my own safe haven. I hired a camera woman and transformed my van into my new chemically safe home. I wanted to find out, how did others get sick? How were they coping with such an overwhelming and often isolating condition? Were they finding safe housing? Did safer housing get people with MCS well? Was one area of the country safer to live in than another? And so, the journey began. I found people to visit through listings in several national and local-based MCS newsletters. Calling one person led me to many more. I discovered an underground network of people with MCS who were attempting to create environmentally safe and supportive communities.
Wow, look at this, it's all screened in. Wow. Oh my God, it's 2 cabins inside. Look at this. Oh my God. Hello. This is huge. This is beautiful. Oh my God. Hi. I was just putting the bed away. This is where I sleep. And then you just roll it in during the day?
I just roll it in during the day. It's so fantastic sleeping outside. Whether you're chemically sensitive or not, it's just wonderful.
Wow. Can you do it all year round?
Yep. Except when it's raining really hard and the wind is blowing in. And then sometimes people burn cedar here or have fires in their fireplaces just every once in a while. And we sleep inside then. This is our daughter's outside bedroom and the guest room. So we found some nice metal beds, and then I made organic cotton futons. And this is how we've slept. And then you'll see the things hanging up over there. We've discovered that you can get rid of a lot of the excess toxins on things by hanging them out.
Did you get sick from one thing?
Well, I don't think anybody really gets sick from one thing. I think it takes a long time for your body to get debilitated, but a lot of people have a trigger, an identifiable trigger when all of a sudden you cross over that magic threshold of not being able to process environmental contaminants. And what happened to us is we moved into a brand new tightly sealed house in a heavily pesticided neighborhood in suburban Chicago.
Oh man, I'm not leaving. This is great. Oh, wow. Oh. So after 7 years of being out here, you started feeling better?
When you get to a clean place, you don't start feeling well right away because your body starts dumping the toxins that you're storing, and then you get sick from the toxins being dumped, and it's extremely confusing because you come from a place where you...
She must have had a lot of financial resources to build such a place. That's a lot of wood. She homeschooled her kids and just stayed away from pesticides, living outside as much as possible. But she and her family are pretty much better now. I don't know if I could live way out there.
We bought this property in 1990.
Mm-hmm. So did you get sick before?
Yes, I had a lot of respiratory problems. We came down here for that reason, because of the clean air. Okay, this is where we started.
Harriet really created a safe community for others, providing land in these small, safe, foiled houses safe buildings to stay in. She's helped keep some very sick people from being homeless.
This apparently is its trailer. It's completely made out of screen. It's handmade out of iron and screen. And there's just room for a bed. Just like this little room. Oh, God.
It's very clear to me now that people have really discovered on their own the exact same thing, that living in an environment as free from chemical exposures as possible improves your health.
It's a real safe environment. It's all foiled over. And it's just our cook shed, and we cook in here, and we have a little table and then we eat, and if we want to watch TV or something when it's raining.
Where do you keep your refrigerator?
Our refrigerator's right there.
Oh, look.
Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying,
An ordained minister, Linda Reinhardt, led a Sunday service for some local women with MCS while I was there. She created the Jeremiah Project, publishing a newsletter and offering counseling and support over the phone to many people with chemical sensitivities.
I didn't know what was wrong for 4 years, and when I looked back, I knew that my boyfriend had a fuel oil leak in his apartment, and I lived in New York City at the time, which is, fairly polluted. And then I ended up the last year before coming down here, living 16 different places in Minneapolis.
I would go into work, I would get very sick. I would have a lot of central nervous system problems, brain fog, memory loss. Well, one day I walked in the door, and as I was opening it, an overwhelming smell came over me. And my immediate response was, this smells like something they've been using to clean the carpets. They had very thin type carpets, and it literally took my breath away. I was hospitalized, and I diagnosed with organic toxic encephalopathy. It seemed like any type of shampoo that the nurses had, body lotion, soaps, everyday items that had not been a problem for me now were very overwhelming for me and just made me so sick. I had become now sensitive to everything.
Susan is in the van over here, parked under a little clump of trees. Let's see how she's doing this morning. Oh, she sees me coming. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see your setup here. Is it more of a challenge than you thought, traveling?
Yeah, I really thought I didn't even think about the wood smoke with the campground. That was the one thing I really didn't think about. And I thought, so camping would just be really okay. I just keep coming against so many limits.
So tell us what happened with the motel, what ordeal we went through.
The motel scene. Went inside 3 restaurants, and we went inside 2 or 3 motels until we landed on this one. And it was more expensive, and I found this little spot right outside the motel so I could use the bathroom and the shower.
You were saying yesterday you felt like you were a prisoner of your body at dinner.
Yeah. When I'm at home and I'm in a setting that, accommodates my disability, I feel like I can really accomplish a lot, brain power-wise, heart power-wise, spirit power-wise. And here my main focus is setting up my physical accommodations. Sometimes you go in denial thinking, well, look at me, I'm traveling, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm really okay. And then it just kind of slams me.
Rhonda Zwillinger had a successful international career as a painter and sculptor, but had to stop and let go of everything when she got sick.
I was one of those people that was injured like that. My co-op installed a carpet. I immediately got symptoms. I started feeling the spreading phenomena, which totally freaked me out. You know, I would pick up an art magazine and I would get the same symptoms that I got from the carpet. I turned on my gas stove and I got the same reaction. I just seemed to be going downhill and I had to leave New York. It was really an agonizing decision because it meant my occupation, and I did what had to be done. And I packed up all by myself. I don't know how I did it. I gave everything away. This was the first piece of property that I saw, and it's 10 acres away from National Forest. And I decided, big land, small house. This is my solar oven. And it is said to be able to cook an 18-pound turkey.
You're kidding.
Though I am not eating turkey these days. It's side on the metal house. It's a very simple design. I used a material called aircrete for insulation. The house is perfectly safe. It took me 2 months to move in, which is unheard of. Usually the house has to outguest for at least a year, I've heard. I mean, it all looks so simple inside, but it was, I was pulling my hair out while I was doing it. It was very stressful to research all the products, to hope that you're making the right decision. You know, so far so good, knock on metal. I was asked by a museum to send 2 photographs. They were doing an exhibition of photographs by artists who don't work in that medium. So I started taking pictures of people with MCS. I met all these people who were living in trailers, living in their cars. The horrific thing is that there's no shortage. I have photographed over 100 people now.
This is Danielle Berkowitz.
Hi, Danielle.
And I'm Bonnie Berkowitz. And this is Zachary Siegelman. I have severe environmental illness and was very allergic to the mold. We were living in Maine at the time. Couldn't respond to treatment. And the doctor said, you've got to get somewhere clean and dry. I'd been a dancer as a young woman. I had artificial joints made of silicone put in my feet after an injury. My body had a full-scale allergic reaction. After 2 years, I had them out, which probably saved my life. And I returned to something similar to health, not all the way. Although I had lots of things wrong I couldn't identify, I didn't crash with EI until we had moved to Maine. My daughter was a year old, and we renovated a house. It took me a long time to believe everything about EI. I didn't believe that the joint pain and the back pain was connected to the more standard eye burning and chest tightness that are more standard allergies.
Why do we dip them twice?
This is going to be a reminder of all the things that are broken, especially what it's like when you feel like your life is broken. And we're going to look forward to the day.
It would be all right, except we have neighbors who won't work with us. It's the pesticide company spraying about every 10 days. So the house is poisoned. I'm smiling, but it's terrifying. We're continuing to look for housing.
We moved here because Zachary was violently ill. He had open, bleeding, weeping sores all over his body. He was swollen beyond recognition. He screamed 24 hours a day in pain. We had a doctor in a hospital once. You know, they couldn't rationalize what had happened. I told them he needs oxygen. They told me, you burned him. They accused me of burning him. They had actually called social services. The reaction stopped. Why? Who knows why? It just suddenly his body kicked in, the reaction stopped, and then they were all standing around going, what happened? I said, what happened was he had a chemical exposure. Didn't fit into their protocol, you know, the traditional doctor. This doesn't really happen, it can't happen. We had what they call a puffback or an oil burner explosion that the 2 of us were in the house. And I suddenly looked up and there was a thick stream of black soot coming out of the hot air vents. It was just a black, oily mess, and it was all over the house. We threw out furniture, everything was destroyed, you know. The doctors will tell me, and do tell me, that the actual cleanup of the chemicals was probably worse than the exposure to the puffback. From that point, he stopped nursing. They had labeled him a failure to thrive. We took him to see a doctor in Scottsdale, who basically told me that if we didn't get him some help, he was going to die. And
Who, me?
You.
Yeah, you.
You. That's why we went to Dallas. Zach had a tough time going through detox. He had quite a few seizures. He had quite a lot of difficulty. It made him very sick. Within about 10 days of being here, his skin started to close up and heal. He slept through the night, probably the first time in his entire life. Zachary cannot go to school. He cannot even go on the grounds of the school. We have just gotten to the point where we're trying to get them to stop spraying the grounds. You know, he's isolated. This is his haven, his house, and his prison. He feels good here, and he is happy here, but he can't leave here.
I'm too tired
Well,
for this.
Hello. Pretty out.
I was too wiped out from exposures to get back on the road that day, so I thought to use the time to check in with my camera woman to get her perspective.
After a week of being on the road with me, what's it been like for you and what have you learned?
Well, let's see. The subject matter is really intense. The people we've met have been very interesting, and all of them have been very courageous. And in a way uplifting, but their stories are really intense and sometimes disturbing to me.
In 1991, shortly after taking a job with a large HMO in Santa Fe, Dr. Erica Elliott began to experience joint and muscle pain, rashes, and severe fatigue. She couldn't remember what her patients had told her, and sometimes she couldn't even understand what they were saying.
I realized that I was in very, very serious shape, that my brain had been damaged.
The nurse who worked near her had very similar symptoms.
One day she was walking down the hall staggering, and her face was bright red with tears rolling down her eyes even though she wasn't crying. And I asked her what was wrong. She said, "Oh, this is how I always am after I clean the instruments." And she was using glutaraldehyde in the procedure room in open vats with no mask, no gloves, no ventilation, no hood, nothing.
The facility was eventually declared a sick building, and Dr. Elliott won the first workers' comp case in New Mexico based on multiple chemical sensitivities.
Have you noticed an increase in the number of patients who are presenting you with these?
There are so many, I can't handle all the patients who request my services. And unfortunately, there are not enough healthcare providers in this area trained to deal with this problem.
What are some of the things that have helped restore your health?
The primary thing is avoidance. I have to just be frank about it. It's not. And the other things are just refinements. But the major crux of my healing was getting out of the chemical soup. I had this house built for me in this community, which was really the beginning of my healing, to have a home that was not toxic to me. And so over the next few years, I began to make major improvements, but I had to live almost a monk-like existence. I didn't go anywhere except to the grocery store. I couldn't take my son to the movies or to the mall or do the stuff that normal mothers do with their children. On the other hand, I was able to regain my brain function gradually over the following years. Exercise. I gave myself intravenous vitamins and minerals, and that was enormously helpful. I slept a lot. I stopped worrying about things. I became more detached in life. I reprioritized my life. And then I channeled some of my pain into activism. I have done a lot of public speaking, and that's been important in my healing process, to feel like I'm using this disaster for something that can benefit other people.
What are some of the things that you bring out in terms of education?
One of the major points that I bring out is that this applies to all of us, because often in the audience there is the sense that, oh, this just applies to a small segment of the population, and that is not true. And so what I do is I begin my talks by asking the audience to respond to certain questions, such as how many of you have unexplained fatigue, how many of you have unexplained headaches, or how many of you have chronic sinus problems. And by the time I finish asking about 5 questions, the whole room has raised their hand. And so it's a way to draw in my audience so they're really saying, oh, this may apply to me or my family.
After listening to Dr. Elliott talk about her patient population and the fact that it's increasing, this is getting harder and harder to have the subject matter be so in my face all the time. Also what Dr. Elliott was saying about taking what your experience is and making it active just gave me a little bit more encouragement to stay with this project, because it's getting really hard on my body, but to continue to try to make this project happen so that more people can see what the reality is. We're entering Paula Baker's house now. Oh, this is beautiful.
No. She's cleaning as we go. This is great.
This is my living room, and it has some features that are great for someone who's chemically sensitive. The floor heating is radiant heating.
You mean the heat comes up through the floor?
Mm-hmm. It's not on right now, but there's pipes that send water in piping through the floor. As you know, for many chemically sensitive people, finding a heating system that's livable. So electric baseboards have electromagnetic fields associated with them, and forced air, unless you have a very good filtration system on it, stirs up dust and is never that comfortable. The walls are plaster, hard trowel plaster, which is a very inert material, and it also acts as a block for any fiberglass insulation. I didn't know of any other alternatives at the time when I built this, and the plaster works very well to block that.
I want to live here. I want to sleep on this floor and feel the heat come up from the floor. This is just so wonderful. And I can feels really comfortable, and I'm not reacting to anything.
Okay.
I'm in love with this. I mean, it's so inert. The sense of it is just so inert.
I see my role really as an educator as well as an architect. I went through 5 years of rigorous training in school, another 8 years until I passed exams, apprenticed, and licensed. And never during that time did anyone mention any connection between architecture and health. And I find that now, having gone through what I have, that's absolutely shocking and astounding. So at first I was sick and I said, poor me, I can't be an architect anymore. I can't go on my job sites. How am I going to do that? And I started to read and read and read. And it became very clear that I could not offer my clients healthy housing or toxic housing, take your pick. So it then became a process of educating people who came in for the product I was producing before, to explain that I no longer do things quite the same, but it will be good for their health. And of course the first question is always, yes, but how much more is it going to cost? I always say, if you were looking for a house and a real estate agent phoned you up and said, I found a great house and it's 20% below market value, has radon, it's got a little asbestos, and it's lead paint, but look at all the money you're saving, would you buy it? Most people say, well, no, of course not. And I say, well, we're using substances in standard construction now that are just as harmful to you as those substances, and it will cost more to eliminate them. But what's the price of health? Okay, so this is Marjorie Young's house, and she is chemically sensitive, has been for quite some time. This building is built within the city limits, so it's a standard frame construction, but it's very different. There's no press board on the outside, there's no tar wrap around the house. We also put a ventilation system in. It's a turbulent flow precipitator. It takes pollen out of the air, and that will allow her to have fresh air coming in the seasons where she needs to have her windows closed because she has allergies to the pollens here. There's very good cross-ventilation, so each room has windows and ventilation on two sides. An owner's participation for someone chemically sensitive is essential. The architect can come all the time, but if the owner's there on a regular basis, it really helps.
This is Patrice, and she's going to show us her living situation. You've been sick for how long?
Since 1983. This is a house that I rent.
You moved down here specifically because you were
Because
sick?
of the climate.
Yeah.
Before the time of my heart attack, I was macrobiotic, and I was an athlete, and I would bike like 10 to 20 miles a day, and I was very fit. But there was no allergy problem, and after that time, I got very severely ill, and for quite a while couldn't eat anything, couldn't live anywhere. Basically, I considered myself homeless for a period of 4 years, and it wasn't your traditional homelessness in that I did have places to stay. I had money. I could rent apartments. I just couldn't be in them. So I had 40 different places over a 3-year period. I tried buying houses. I had money then at the beginning to buy houses. I tried remodeling 3 different places with safer materials, and still I could only really make it through the night in my tent. And I directly do notice that living outside clears me out enough so that I can eat the next day with minimal reactions or go places. And if I don't do that, it builds up every day, and I'll end up like having cardiac arrhythmias and having severe problems tolerating food, going into anaphylactic shock after I eat. And now I'm improved enough so that I only have to sleep outside. And I use the house for kitchen, bathroom, warm up, place to talk on the phone, you know, just kind of vegetate sometimes. And then outside when I can't cope in any other way.
We're going in the teepee. Oh wow, look at the stove. So the wood smoke doesn't bother you because it goes out there, right?
I figured the choice between a campfire, which would be wood smoke all over in here, and the stove was better, and it does heat the whole thing pretty effectively.
How cold does it get here?
It's not real bad here. I would say 0 is the worst.
Well, you're from Minnesota, right? Who am I talking to?
Average is kind of, I would say about 20 and 30 in the winter. It's real comfy in the summer. I feel that the spirituality is the only thing that I've been able to hold on to, because everything else is gone. Friends, places to stay, foods you can eat, you know, cars you could tolerate, you know, houses, any of that has all gone by the way. And there's been many times that I felt totally isolated and alone and really felt like the end of the earth, you know, kind of thing. But I feel that by learning how to embrace that, I've actually come to know myself better. I was kind of frenetic, and now I'm learning balance.
I'd recommend to anybody who has EI, primary if you're buying a vehicle, buy something you can sleep in. Because I have absolute freedom now. I can travel and have a place to stay. Plus this last year, I mean, I lived in it. What would I have done if I didn't have it? Mostly I found all kinds of driveways. It was not easy to find places to park. In winter, I was not going to be able to go up to the mountains.
And this was
plug
all
into
in the
electric.
Santa Fe area, right?
So it was all in the Santa Fe area, and there were times where I paid up to $300 a month just to park outside of people's houses and plug into electric. In the space of 6 weeks, I moved 20 times. I lost count, but it was at least 200 different moves. I was working in a hospital as a medical social worker on a kidney dialysis unit. And I mean, unfortunately, I didn't know what was going on. I just kept getting sicker and sicker. In dialysis, you have to go to the patient because they're stuck on a dialysis machine. And right next to where I would talked to patients was the room where they literally disinfected the dialyzers in formaldehyde. And over the course of, it took a few months, and I started getting really, really, really sick, and I didn't know what was going on. Fortunately, I'm one of the few lucky ones. I found a doctor who said, "You're not crazy, you were poisoned." And this was the magic path to living indoors.
Do you share the bathroom with them? And
Yeah, we share bathrooms and kitchen.
And that was okay
Yeah.
being in the house?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you cope with this?
It's really been hard to just come to some belief system that works, that life isn't arbitrary, but you're also not blamed for anything. And I'm still playing with it. Right now I'm somewhere in the middle of, I'm not a bad person, I'm a good person, and shit happens.
Right.
And what am I going to do with it?
Well, before going to work with the laboratory, I was a very active person, very healthy. Almost since day one, I was involved with a lot of solvents.
What kind of chemicals are you talking
Well,
about?
I used trichloroethylene, okay? I used acetone, I used trichloroethane, I used freon, ethanol. We used ethanol like water. As a matter of fact, all the solvents, we used them like it was water, I was not advised by management that these things would eventually do me some harm. After 2 years, I experienced a lot of respiratory problems. I kept going to doctors, the laboratory doctors and private doctors, and all they would do is treat the symptoms that I had. None of the doctors that I went to ever asked me what type of work I did. The employer refused to acknowledge that the illness I have, that it was caused by them. I have anger, there's no doubt about it, of what the system did to me, because the evidence was there. My work history said it all.
I found the MCS community in Santa Fe to be well organized and politically active. Perhaps because they were doing better here, no longer just struggling to survive. When I was interviewing the members of the Healthy Housing Coalition, I thought to myself, if I ever had to move, Santa Fe would be my first choice.
We originally formed to address the housing crisis of people with MCS, to try to help people find houses, to find a way to provide more housing, to educate the public about the fact that their house could very well be making them sick.
There are a lot of different illnesses that are environmental illnesses. This is like the tip of the iceberg. If you go into a family or you go into a neighborhood, a lot of times you're going to see multiple chemical sensitivities. The neighbors may have lupus. Next door house may have multiple sclerosis. The next house may have leukemia. The Environmental Protection Agency just released a $1 million study that said that Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are environmental illnesses.
Well, one of the things that I find unconscionable by the industry's position that this is a made-up illness.
Do you mean the chemical industry?
I mean the chemical industry. They've linked up the pesticide manufacturers, the carpet manufacturers, the fragrance manufacturers are probably the key group.
Hasn't this happened in the past?
Multiple sclerosis was considered a psychosomatic disorder for 100 years until they could finally document that the myelin sheath was breaking down.
The idea that we're brainwashed by physicians to do these crazy things like move out in the middle of nowhere and lose your family, lose your job, lose your pets, you lose your belongings, lose everything, and think that you're sick. Now, I was a practicing physician, and I know how hard it is to get people to take all of their antibiotics, to take their blood pressure medicine regularly, to lose weight. It's almost impossible. People do what they want. So the idea that a doctor told somebody one time to go make all these major changes in your life, and they continue to do it for 20 years, the chances that it's just because a doctor told them, it makes no sense whatsoever. I think overwhelming experience of chemically sensitive people is that reducing your chemical exposures reduces your symptoms and improves your health.
Part of the thing that industry deals with is acceptable risk, that if a certain thing only makes a few people sick, maybe it's acceptable. Well, that is only acceptable if you're not the person that's made ill. I am ill, and that is not acceptable.
I just spoke with a person in Santa Fe who has EI, who's been on a feeding tube for a year.
Often they see us that are a little bit healthier, that are able to get out and speak, and they don't see the people like her who are so ill. You know, I've seen patients in clinics that were, you know, just barely hanging on, and then I find out later they have died. You know, young people. They're not seeing the worst of us at all.
It's extremely sad to me to have an illness like MCS, which is so devastating, and it's just so overwhelming, and where people need all the help they can get. They need focused research, they need medical attention, they need help with all sorts of other types of services. It's sometimes, aid to daily living, and that instead of getting help from society, we're getting spurned by society.
You know, part of the problem is people say, well, it doesn't bother me. You know, I say, well, I can't go into your house because your carpeting's too new. And they say, well, it doesn't bother me. Well, there was a time when new carpeting didn't bother me. There was a time when perfume and all those other things didn't bother me. And when you find out that they bother you, it's too late. The real problem with education is that people think, well, it's you people out there, you have this thing. I'm so lucky I don't have it. Well, we were all lucky at one time and didn't have it either. I had to sue the Educational Retirement Board in order to get my disability pension. And it was interesting that the doctor that testified against me later got sick in his office and had to move to an old office. You know, you never know who's going to be next.
We're lost. Pat, it's Susan. We're lost. We're at the Cuesta post office and we can't find you. Are you there? Paved road or within sight of, I think I see a truck going off to the right. Okay. There's the Adobe. I think this is it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Airstream trailers and 1 regular trailer. Oh my God. When did you come to Cuesta?
I came in 1988. I crashed in 1985 in January is when I had the exposure. I got myself together. It took me that long to get my act together to live on my own. So it was 88 in April. I had gotten caught having to sleep outside because they paved the streets where my refuge was and I had no place else to go. So I learned from that I had to have a vehicle I could sleep in. So I bought my trusty van. I still had some money at that point. I bought my van, and the van is what got me out here because I still had no place, no tolerance. So I had to have some place I could sleep and live from. It took me half a year to find a house I could tolerate.
And this is your house?
This is my house. Yeah, my derelict Adobe. It's getting better, but that's what I called it.
You've opened your land to all these other people. This is where they come for survival, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just last-ditch determination to stay alive.
Right.
Is where you are. Mm-hmm. Because you've reached the point where you've lost everything.
I know that this is just, it's a holding point for them. It's not permanent.
Yes, it's a place where you can give your body the peace it needs to start to heal.
When I got the sickest, I was living about a mile from a dump, and Hurricane Andrew blew through Florida, and they were bringing all the debris up from South Florida to the dump near our house and burning it. And there was 100 truckloads coming in a day, and they were just burning and burning, and when the wind would blow towards our house, I could smell it all day and all night. And I just try to seal up the house as best I could with blankets and towels on the windows and use the air purifier. Just try to seal myself in, but it didn't work.
That was, you can pinpoint it to that time, yeah. Well, this looks like about the same age trailer that Tom's was.
It's a little bit newer. I think it's a 66 or 67. I mean, I was so sick.
Well, this
it
is
was
fairly...
just like being a trapped rat. When you can't breathe and you can't think and you can't see and you can't go to the bathroom, you can't eat, there's no sense in living. You're just sitting there.
So you told me, Tom, that this trailer has quite a history.
My friend James Hawken originally bought the trailer in Tucson, had it refurbished, and he could never really live in the trailer. Subsequently, his health did deteriorate, not because of the trailer, and he did take his life. And then after that, a very kind gentleman by the name of Abner Fish came up from Minnesota and rented the trailer. He was just very frustrated with the whole MCS situation that he then subsequently went to his sister's home on Long Island and took his life there.
There have been 40 to 50 people with MCS who have come to stay on Pat's property for weeks, months, or years to try to get better. Of these 40 or so people, Pat subsequently learned that 7 of them have committed suicide. Unfortunately, this is a tragic but all too familiar result of living with this devastating and alienating illness. I was so happy to be going home to my own safe place. But then, how safe was it really? I knew it was a little moldy, but over the next couple of years, the situation got worse. I looked for another place to live for the next 2.5 years. I was getting sicker and sicker. My doctor said, "You've got to get out of here, somewhere where it's drier." So when I learned that a casita that had been built for a chemically sensitive woman was available to rent in Santa Fe, I went to check it out. 6 weeks later, I moved there. But after staying in the casita for 3 hours, I got very sick. I had to leave. I was devastated. I tried everything I could think of to make the casita tolerable, covering things in foil, using ozone, leaving windows open. But after 3 months of trying, I gave up. I wound up staying with a chemically sensitive friend while I looked for another place to live in the Santa Fe area. Even though I felt disoriented, in a strange place, and didn't know if I'd find my own place to live, my doctor was right. I felt better here. But after over a year of looking, I still had no prospects on the horizon. It forced me to think outside of the box. I thought, what have I got to lose? So I asked a friend if she'd consider buying a house and renting it to me. And she said yes. And within just a few weeks of looking, I found the place.
This used to have kind of an incensey smell, and see, all these incredible vigas were pretty dust-filled for like 20 years.
It was going to take a lot of work to make the house safe enough for me. At the very least, the propane gas stove, oven, and dryer needed to be switched to electric, and carpeting needed to be replaced with tile. I took out an old plastic jacuzzi that was cracked, and when we took it out, there was mold underneath. I got a cast iron tub from the Habitat for Humanity's Restore. A construction guy built up the floor without plywood. He used 2x4s instead, that I sealed with a non-toxic sealant, wrapped in Denny foil.
Yay! Hold the styrofoam part.
Finally, I was ready to move in.
I haven't seen these things in a year.
But as it turned out, there was more work to do.
I have been in the house now for 3 weeks. It's been an up and down ride, but the last 3 days I've been getting really sick from the house. Been like really weak and tired, and lots of headaches and not being able to concentrate. Don't know what it's being caused by. I feel like you know, the house is like not okay for me to be in. I mean, this illness just is horrible. It's horrible.
So, it was back to my friend's place while I tried to figure out what else I could do to make the house work. The bathroom downstairs was really fragrant.
Is she nuts or what? Oh my God, this is what I've been doing to knock down the fragrance. I have washed the walls with baking soda twice. I added a little bleach. I have done practically everything except take the walls down, which would be even worse, I think, because of new materials. That's going to go on all the seams so that it's all sealed up.
6 months later, I was finally able to move in for good.
When I think about your hugging, I can't wait to feel your loving.
This is me now, 6 years later. Yes, I do live with a lot of foil, some unusual decor that I've gotten used to, but I'm so grateful to be living in a home that's safe for me most days. And I'm very aware that things could change in an instant if a neighbor sprayed pesticides or mold got out of control after a roof leak. I can't say that I've gotten well here. I still have my ups and downs, yet I know that I'm one of the lucky ones. There are so many others who are struggling to find safe housing. It's almost inevitable that anyone with MCS will, at some point, find themselves homeless, or living in a car or a tent, staying at a state park, a friend's driveway, or paying rent on a place but living in the yard. These situations can last for weeks to years. Although there have been a few instances of housing projects built specifically for people with MCS, like those in Snowflake, Arizona, or California's Ecology House, and more recently, modular prefab housing offered by PH Living, it only serves a tiny fraction of the people who need it. According to a national survey, it's estimated that there are 35 million chemically sensitive people in the U.S. alone. It appears that MCS can happen to anyone. Although women get it more frequently than men, MCS occurs in people of all ages, races, and walks of life. And this is happening around the world. Despite the courage, perseverance, and creativity of so many people dealing with this illness, it's clear that we're in urgent need of help. Maybe we will get that help when more people realize how much they too are at risk of getting sick from the chemical soup we all live in. As I reflect on my journey, I am more convinced than ever that finding safe housing is the first and most important thing for people with MCS. And yet, it is still the most difficult thing to do.
Where is my home? Where on earth is my home? Is there a home for me? A safe place to nest, maybe away from the rest, where the air is nothing but clean. I woke up so weary this morning, knowing what's waiting for me. to find the refuge I seek. Oh, to find the home that I need. Where is my home? Where on earth is my home? Is there a home for me? Just a safe place to nest, away from the rest, where the air is nothing but clean, where my body's at ease and my mind is at peace, where the air is nothing